Hello.
Yes, hello. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're just waiting for a few more people to join, though, Anna, I think
Don't you start now?
Yeah.
Start.
I think we should start now. Anna, go ahead.
Someone a few minutes back that
Yes, hello. Welcome to this virtual presentation on the Global Center on Adaptation Local Adaptation Champions Awards. My name is Anna Manikovska and I will be your moderator today. On behalf of the Global Center on Adaptation, I am delighted to introduce our speakers. Ms. Anju Sharma is the Global Center on Adaptation's lead on locally led adaptation. She will be guiding our discussion today. Ms. Sharma is joined by members of the Technical Advisory Group for these awards. The Technical Advisory Group is composed of high-level experts in locally led adaptation. They contributed to shaping these awards, and their role going forward will be to screen applications and select finalists for the high-level jury to vote on. You will hear from them in a few minutes. This presentation will be broken down into two main parts. In the first part, we will give you some background about the Global Center on Adaptation, or GCA. We will present the awards and go through the application process. In the second part, we will be taking questions from you. Please use the FAQ box, not the chat box, to post your questions. We strongly encourage you to ask all the questions you might have now, as this is the only opportunity you will have to seek clarifications. Once this virtual event ends, none of us from the organizing team or the technical advisory group will be allowed to answer questions from candidates. You will, however, be able to access the recording of this session on the GCA website. So without further ado, I am pleased to give the floor to Ms. Sharma, lead locally led adaptation at GCA. Ms. Sharma, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anna. Thanks, and hello and welcome to everybody. Thank you for taking the time for joining us today. We're really excited about these awards. I'm going to basically take you through a little bit, if I can get this to work. I'll introduce you first very briefly to the GCA and then to the TAG members. I'll go through the awards process and then we'll have some comments from the TAG members and then an opportunity for a Q&A with you. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Global Center on Adaptation, it's a relatively new organization. It was set up in 2018. And I think most of you will agree that there was a gap in the international architecture for such an organization. But at the same time, there are so many other organizations that are doing such good work on adaptation. So the goal of the GCA is to accelerate and support adaptation, but do it in a way that takes into account all the other work that other organizations are doing, help to scale that up through partnerships and collaborations, and fill gaps where we identify them as we go along. So we have three main focus areas: programs and action, knowledge acceleration, and agenda setting and advocacy. And we have programs on food security, on water and urban, infrastructure and nature-based solutions, youth action, and climate finance. The locally led adaptation pillar is cross-cutting. As you can imagine, it's something that cuts across all these areas. And we recently launched the activities of the locally led adaptation pillar with funding from the UK, from the FCDO, and with the goal of setting up a global hub on locally led adaptation in Bangladesh. This was at the request of the Prime Minister, who wanted to, on the one hand, reflect the good work that's going on at the local level in Bangladesh in adapting to climate change and their many, many years of experience in dealing with such disasters. And at the same time, to highlight the efforts that were going on in other places. But the goal of the Global Hub is to scale up locally led adaptation practices, which, as many of you know, they have spectacular success, but they always tend to be quite fragmented. So our goal is to try and strike those partnerships and collaborations that will help us scale up good practices and do it at speed. Because as you'll agree, nothing is more important right now than being able to get the help that is needed at the local level to deal with climate impacts that are already hitting us, that are already affecting lives and livelihoods. So to give you an overview of the awards process, this was our way of trying to understand, I mean, one knows that in the past several decades, actually, we've tried to devolve even development action to the local level. And we have a lot of experience in good practices on how to do that. Some of that experience has translated to the adaptation sort of efforts that are ongoing. But I think there's a lot more of that kind of interchange that can go on. But it's also to sort of look at the adaptation actions that are ongoing on the ground and to spotlight the ones that are innovative, exemplary, that can help other communities in other parts of the world to deal with climate impacts. And then for us also, it's to scale up the good practices that we can help so to identify the good practices that we can help scale up in the future. So the awards process itself, we had a very good technical advisory group to advise us on how we should design them, what the categories should be, what the process should be, etc. So we have Abul Kalam Azad, who is the special envoy for the CVF in Bangladesh. We have Anna Balance, who's with the FCDO in Bangladesh as well. Shenaz Musa, who's with South North in South Africa, and Susan Nandudu with the African Center for Trade and Development in Uganda, and myself. So you'll be hearing, we have three of the, four, including me, of the TAG members on this call. You'll be hearing from them after I finish my presentation. About the awards themselves, what are they about? How many awards? What are they going to be on? I'm sure you've had a chance to look at the material that's online, but to go through it quickly, we plan to have 4 winners across 4 categories, which I'll tell you about in a minute, and each will receive 15,000 in cash, 15,000 euros, and we'll have 20 award nominees who will benefit from media coverage around the nomination for the awards. This application process is open to anybody. It doesn't matter whether you're a local organization, whether you're a global organization, public sector, private sector, as long as you've done good work on locally led adaptation. And we'll come in a minute to how we define locally led adaptation. You're welcome to apply. The deadline is the 10th of July, so the call for applications will be open until then. The winners will be announced at an award ceremony in Sharm el-Sheikh at COP27 in November. And the winners will also be invited to join us, obviously, at the award ceremony. The award categories themselves, we have 4. We have inclusive leadership, and these are 4 elements that we drew from the principles on locally led adaptation that I hope you're all familiar with. We thought, these were a good start to focus on these areas. Don't worry if you feel that your initiative doesn't fit one box, but as long as you highlight one which you think is key, that should be fine. We have a category on inclusive leadership, and as you know, that is the crux of how we define locally led adaptation, that it's actually the communities that are in the forefront of decision making, that they have the power to decide how funds are used, what are the activities, what their priorities are, what are the solutions. So I'm going to go into the details here. So the projects are inclusive by design, owned by communities. They've been managed by the people and who will benefit with them. They have been monitored and evaluated by the people, so the communities that are meant to benefit are actually able to say that they did benefit, and that it is inclusive of the more vulnerable sections of society that are often excluded, whether that's due to their gender, race, language, ethnicity, etc. We then have the second category is on financial governance. And again, this is a key element on driving locally led adaptation. Who takes the decisions on how the money is spent. So on the one hand, we're looking for projects that have that devolve that kind of decision-making to communities, use innovative financial mechanisms to deliver the funds in a way that is flexible and allows for local priorities to be addressed. And that there are collaborations and there are efforts to sort of try and scale up and be less fragmented in the way that the finances are used. We have the third category is on knowledge and capacity. And often, this is an excuse why local communities are not given a leadership position, that they lack the knowledge and capacity. But unless we invest in this knowledge and capacity, it's never going to happen. So this category is essentially on innovative ways of strengthening local knowledge and skills related to climate change adaptation, climate finance, enabling local actors to build their knowledge. And it's capacity building in a way that's not sporadic, not fragmented, but it's long-term capacity building. There is capacity retention, it's institutionalized, and it's built upon as time passes. So it's not that we have to start all over again with every project or activity that we start. And interventions that contribute to knowledge sharing and build and sort of the evidence case for locally led adaptation. And then the fourth category is local innovation. And these are physical or digital innovations that minimize the immediate and long-term impacts of climate change on the poor and vulnerable. And solutions presented could be an existing solution that's been creatively applied in the context of adaptation. It could be a solution that was never before used, or a completely new idea which successfully applied a combination, or it could be a combination of all of the above. On the application process itself, we wanted to keep this really simple. So in the first instance, all we need you to do is to give us a very short description of about 300 words with a 2-minute video and a photo or infographics. Now, none of this needs to be fancy. So the video could just be somebody you've filmed on your mobile phone describing the initiative, but preferably in a story format. So we're looking for a story here. What's the story? How have you adapted? What are the innovations? What are the mechanisms that are new to this, or that you've adapted to this? So a very brief description of that is what we're looking for. And then based on this, we will shortlist 20 applications, and the applications will be ranked. And the main criteria by which we'll shortlist are their reach and impact. So how many people have you reached out to? What's been the impact? How successfully have you managed to help communities adapt? Then the potential for replication and scaling up is have you already had a chance to replicate it elsewhere? Has it been scaled up? What is the potential to do so? Devolution of decision making, as we discussed, that's a key element. To what extent was that done? To what extent did communities have a voice in deciding priorities and the activities that are funded, and participating in their implementation and monitoring? The devolution of financing, gender and social inclusion, and partnerships and collaboration. In terms of the selection process itself, as I said, we have the call for applications open till the 10th of July. Then the applications will be screened against a set of criteria after the closing of the call for applications. We'll have 20 applicants who will be nominated for the awards, and we'll get in touch with these 20 applicants and ask them to provide more information to support their entry. So at this stage, you will be asked to give us more information that we can then put to the technical advisory group, and they will be shortlisted further and share the shortlist with a high-level jury who will decide the winners. And so we will possibly get in touch with you at the end of July, early August, for additional information. And the final assessment and the jury selection of winners will take place in October, in time for the award ceremony in November. So now I'd like to request the TAG members to say a few words before we come back to you for any questions that you may have on the process. Over to you, Anna.
Sorry, my mute and unmute button seems to be acting funny. I would ask Mr. Abul Kalam Azad to maybe start with a few words.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Anju, for the detail of the award. So dear colleagues, the environment fighters, welcome. From GCA, this is a great opportunity. Though we used to tell that GCA is a COVID organization, just after 2018, though it took part, but main activities started in 2019 and 2020 later on. This initiative of the Global Hub for getting the good organizations in terms of leadership, knowledge, financial management, and also innovation. So colleagues, those who are working relentlessly for the environment, this is an opportunity to showcase your innovation, your hard work, your intelligence, your new knowledge. We all know that IPCC report 6, it shows the devastating future, 2050 coming to 2030. If you look into Bangladesh, last 1 week, what is happening? Record of so many records, flood and heavy rain. Last year and year before last year, we are facing so many floods, cyclone, river erosion, and saline water intrusion. So the propensity of climate events are more, and with a huge bad impact on our people. Huge number of migration. We know that after this flood in Bangladesh, huge number of people will be migrated. How do we combat them with this adaptation? Your knowledge, your innovation will help us in combating this situation. So we encourage all the organization, those who are here, please submit your papers, your documents as mentioned by Anju within time. So 10th June to 10th July, looking towards Sharm el-Sheikh and replicating your innovation globally. I'm very grateful to GCA for including me in the tag member. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Abul Kalam Azad. I would like to invite Anna Balance to say a few words.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you, Anju. Thank you for inviting me to participate in this event. Exactly as Mr. Azad has said, I'm also here in Bangladesh, and it is ever more evident the need for scaling up adaptation. So some parts of the country have had the highest rainfall they've had in 120 years. It just throws into stark relief how urgent the need is, and how no matter how much adaptation is ongoing, adaptation is always playing catch up. The climate is always one step ahead. So it's really important that we identify the best practices from all over the world that can be scaled up. And just one other example that has come to me recently. The FCDO put out a call for proposals, and I've been helping a colleague screen those proposals. We had 1,600 proposals, and the vast majority were all about that gap in adaptation at the local level, and actually making the policies and the plans inclusive and appropriate to the local context. So that's why I think that these awards are so useful. Firstly, for rewarding the efforts that have taken place already. Secondly, for recognizing the innovation. And thirdly, to learn and to advocate for scaling up so that these practices can be rolled out to support more and more people. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Now I'd like to give the floor to Susan Nandudu.
Thank you, Anna, and good afternoon, good evening, colleagues. My name again is Susan Nandudu. I'm from Uganda, and I work with a civil society organization. I am pleased to be part of this process, and I'd like to encourage you really to apply for these awards. We, as a globe, are we're in a process where we need to start taking stock of the adaptation efforts, the mitigation actions, but these awards in particular draw a spotlight on adaptation. And you may be aware or not that under the UNFCCC, there are processes of defining the global goal on adaptation. And part of that really requires that we have some examples of what is working and what is not working. And we think that through these awards, we are going to have an opportunity to learn from you. So please consider yourself a teacher and speak to us, tell us what is going on and what is working, what is not working well, so that a spotlight can be drawn on you, the practitioners. And I hope that we will get many submissions through this process. I'd like to assure you that the process is very transparent, and everything that has been posted on the website and the evaluation process, it is really transparent. So you can be assured that if you give us a good case, there is a very good chance that you will have your example coming through to the global level. So please represent those women, represent the young people in these awards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. I'm giving the floor back to Andrew now.
Thanks, Anna. So now, Anna, will you be sharing some of the questions that have come up?
Yes, I actually have quite a few. So I'm going to start in the order in which they have arrived. I guess I'll lump the first two because they're related. The first one is, once awarded, what can be the minimum and maximum duration of the adaptation practices? And the second one is, will the award be given to the chosen champion, or are there certain restrictions that I should be using, that it should be used in their communities? So I guess it's the question is about, are there any specific guidance on how the award, the 15,000 euros, should be used, maximum or minimum duration of the practices, or restrictions that it should be used in the community? Andrew, would you like to take this one?
I'll start, and then if any of the TAG members want to join in, please feel free. But I think the first question, probably there's a point for clarification there, that this is not an award for a specific proposal that you sent for us, but it's for something that you've already done in the past. So, there isn't a period as such for the adaptation processes. It just needs to be something that has been implemented. You're able to show results, because that's the basis on which we'll be able to judge its impact and its scale, its how it's helped communities, what the adaptation component is. On the amount itself, while there is no absolute requirement, the reason we have this award is to be able to support local initiatives. So we'd very much hope that the money goes back into promoting that initiative or similar locally led adaptation initiatives. So if anybody wants to add, please do come in.
Okay. The third question is also a little bit related. Can I apply if the idea is in a pilot phase?
Again, as I said, I mean, we need certain information to judge it on compared to others that would have been implemented. So I would say that if it's in a pilot phase, then wait, and hopefully in the future, once you have results, that would be a better time to apply. But also pilot phase sometimes could mean that you have, it has gone through a couple of years of implementation, you have results to show. In that case, it would be fine, but just not something that you started right now.
Next question, what will happen if my project falls into more than one category?
I would say identify the category that you think your project is strongest for, but flag the others as well, because that hopefully will get you extra brownie points in the criteria. So say the one which is the most innovative, the one that's the biggest portion of that, but do include the others as well.
Now about the application process. It consists of a short story, videos and photos, or video and photos, but the original application seems to contain a lot of questions. Who would like to take that?
You can, Anna, actually, since you're dealing with the forms. Do you want to answer that?
Yes, so we do need a few boxes checked. So you will see a lot of questions, in fact, but most of them are just answers, quick answers. And we also ask you for some justification to your answers. So it does seem quite like a long form. But let's say this is a way for us to be able to actually compare those applications one to another. Then you also have the short video and photo, which is more of a qualitative judging criteria, let's put it this way. So we want to see how you feel about this project, what you really want to show us through these videos and photos. So it's more your choice as opposed to the form, which will allow us to compare applications and rank them.
I'd like to add.
Please.
Please don't be intimidated by the questions. Just think that we do not know about your project, but through these questions, you'll be able to help us understand your project. So I would really encourage you to invest time and just respond to those questions and consider it a process to help us learn about you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The other question is, what would be the scope of the adaptation project? Can it encompass a whole city or multiple, and the time frame that it needs to be executed? What would be the deliverables of the project?
So again, here, I think the assumption is that this is a proposal for a project rather than a project that's been completed. Again, we're talking about something that you've already done. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you mean it's a project that you've already completed, then the scope of the project can be as big or small. It's the innovation and the impact and other elements that we'd be looking at. And we'd have a scoring criteria as well over there, so we don't disadvantage smaller projects.
Yeah, and this also goes to the last question we've received, and another one that's in the middle of the chat, whether we'll consider a brand new idea or something that has been implemented. So I think we've answered this one. It really has to be either in implementation, but you're already showing results, or it has been implemented and you can show us what you've done. If it's an idea that hasn't started yet, I'm afraid this is not the right awards for you. The last question I have here, oh no, there's more coming, but the last one I noted is, can someone with no registered organization apply?
So I think this would have to be an organization. I mean, because again, we're assuming that it's an organization that's implemented a project. So it would have to be an organization.
And linked to this, can an organization apply on behalf of the community if the organization is supporting the community implement the project? Whose name will go into the application?
So, I mean, I welcome the other tag members to pitch in as and when you want to, but I'd say that over here, we definitely need consent from the community, and we want this to be an application from all the involved partners. So it would have to be something that you do on everyone's behalf rather than one. And we will need, in the second stage, we will need further details to make sure that has happened. So because this is, again, as I said, if it's several stakeholders are involved in the project, then we will need their consent for submitting an application to the awards.
Another question, is there any regional balance for awarding the proposals?
So again, over here, I think that's only limited by our outreach. And to that extent, we have a few places where we have better networks, are able to reach out better, but we welcome you to help us. So no, we're not focused on specific regions. These are open to anybody from across the world. And we'd really appreciate your help in getting the applications, the advertisements out so more people from around the world apply.
Another question here, is there any regional balance? No, I'm sorry. What is the selection process? What are the parameters of selecting winners? We did cover this in the presentation. There are several criteria. I don't know, Andrew, can you maybe bring back that slide? Or
I think what's probably best is that we will share the slide deck. So I see that people have asked for it. If you send us your email addresses through the chat, perhaps we can email the deck to them. Would that be possible? Sure.
Here, a participant says, but it is clearly written that an individual can apply for these awards. We're linking back to your response, Andrew.
Yeah, it would be an individual on behalf of the other stakeholders, is what I'd say. So it could be an individual in an organization, but we still need that consent because presumably there will be others involved as well.
I think if I have a project or initiative that really works with the local community, then you can apply, but you need the consent of the community. This is what we mean. Can an organization submit multiple applications under a similar category or under the same category?
Yeah, I think so. There's nothing to stop you from doing that. So definitely. I mean, I think that you could probably strengthen your case by submitting one application that highlights that it addresses these many different categories as well. But equally, if you choose, you could submit it under different categories.
Now, another question is, I have a startup working in Bangladesh in waste management. Is that applicable for adaptation?
Azadbhai, shall I leave that question to you?
Thank you. Waste management is a good work under adaptation. But if it is just started, then whether it will fulfill the other criteria, you need to look into that. But if it is ongoing, showing good result, obviously it will be evaluated better.
And I would just add to say that if you can link it to how, for instance, that impacts climate-related criteria, for instance, flooding, etc., then that makes the case stronger. So we are looking for different, shall I say, along the spectrum of adaptation, the ones that are pure adaptation, but others that are not necessarily pure adaptation, but they have impacts on either building resilience or in contributing to reducing the impacts of climate change.
Then the last one I have in the Q&A is, do you consider collaborative work with public sector local institutions like municipality and other local level governments?
Anna or Susan, would you like to take that question?
I'd say absolutely, because one of the principles that we are looking for is partnership. So please demonstrate that. And if it is really coming from the local level and the participation is inclusive, not only of the local governments, but the others, the women, the persons with disability, do present that. Anna, you want to add something?
No, that was perfect answer. I would say exactly the same. Yeah.
Do we have any more questions from the audience, or is there anything you would like to add from the technical advisory group that came to your mind that was maybe triggered by some of the questions, or things that you think might be useful to add? I don't see any more questions. Maybe tour de table. Oh, one came in. Do you consider collaborative work? No, this is the same. Sorry, my Q&A resets. Mr. Abul Kalam Azad, would you like to add a few words, and I'll go around?
So, dear participants, those who are eagerly asked so many questions, I believe your participation will make this initiative successful. You see, we are in a very bad time of the climate change events, especially in the vulnerable countries. Your effort, which you are doing, this is not done only for you, only for not for your locality. We want to scale this up. We want to tell the whole globe that what good things you are doing, so that other people can replicate this. By this, obviously, you will win an award. But the inner story is we go with your feelings, we go with your hard work. We want to share your emotions so that the whole globe can take part and ultimately take part in the adaptation activities and combat the climate change. Thank you.
Anna Balance, would you like to add a few words?
Thank you. Yes, also just to encourage everybody to apply. We need to hear these stories, and even if you think it's a small project, there's always something to be learned from somebody's experience. So please send in your experiences.
And Susan?
Yeah, to pick it up also from Anna, that spread the word, kindly spread the word so that we can get as many applications as possible. Yes, it is a competition, but it is also an opportunity to learn from what is happening everywhere. Even if you do not make it to the best, that process is going to teach the rest of the world something. So please apply and share the word. Thank you.
Andrew, over to you.
Thanks, Anna. So just going on from what Susan said, I think that the idea is not just to win, but it's also to share your efforts, because what I can tell you is that even if you don't make the 20, we do plan to, go through all the applications that you send, see what's in there that we can learn from, that we can perhaps help you scale up through influencing bigger investments. So we will sort of get in touch with you for good experiences that we think have a wider impact, to develop them into something that others can access and use. So it's not just the 4 that will win or the 20 that we'll shortlist, but it's all your applications that we hope will help us develop knowledge products, will help us develop those little things that make the difference between whether it's locally led or not, and help us introduce these good practices into bigger investments, whether they're by governments or they're by multilateral development banks, etc. So this is really a time, I think, when we have to figure out new ways of working with each other, striking partnerships, collaborating, being generous with our ideas and our innovations. And we really hope that you will share, that we'll hear from you, that your work will inspire us, that we're able to share that with others who are in a similar situation, who will learn from what you have done. So please do apply. And I promise you that even if you don't win, even if you don't make the 20, we will hear what you said. We will sort of learn from what you send us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all participants who have joined us for this virtual event, and a special thank you for our technical advisory group members, Mr. Abul Karam Azad, Ms. Anna Balance, and Ms. Susan Nandudu, and of course, Andrew Sharma, our lead on locally led adaptation. This webinar is being recorded. It is going to be available on the GCA website. The slide deck will be emailed to those who have submitted their emails in the chat box. So thanks again. It has been a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.